Bum ba da bum. That is the universal sound of power rankings, Mark. I don't know if you knew that, but that's the sound.
Yeah, that is
you've heard it a lot.
globally recognized by the United Nations as the international power ranking sign. And hey, power rankings coming your way right now.
Power rankings coming. Eric and Mark here with you guys for League Unlocked. Starting with North America, where the bottom half, the bottom 70% of the league, it's an absolute mess every week. There's a whole lot of shifting going on, and the top three have been pretty steady for a couple of weeks. And after week 6, you're looking at similar results, but by far the biggest surprise of the season continues to be 100 Thieves. And Mark, this week, look at where they are. Oh no.
When you say the best surprise of the week, it's gotta be bad.
It's got to be real bad. Like number 10, as in the worst team in North America. And I know that they won the head-to-head against Clutch that they played this week. And you'll remember Clutch had their infamous 8-0 start to that game before throwing that lead. But even with that, 100 Thieves should not have won that game. They had no business winning it. And then that performance they put against Golden Guardians is more than enough for me to put them in at number 10.
The biggest problem, really, when you want to talk about 100 Thieves, and there's a ton of problems that have been going on right now, is really the gameplay has been so unbelievably lackluster from this squad. You're not getting any type of plays, any type of proactivity, anything working in connection with one another player.
Just roll over.
It is not good, and I haven't seen any signs of life, really, from this 100 Thieves squad at all this whole year.
And Clutch actually had some signs of life. We talked about Hooney having a bounce-back performance this weekend. They should have gone 2-0 with that huge lead that they did have against 100 Thieves. Then they got the win against Echo Fox. So finally, some positives to see from Clutch, which is why they're up a spot, even though they lost that match to 100 Thieves. Echo Fox have... Panda is not the answer in the jungle, as it turns out. Maybe Rush wasn't the issue. They've lost 4 in a row now, so they go down a couple of spots again at 4-8 to number 8. And CLG, they stay exactly where they were from last week here at 5-7. I still don't know what to think of CLG.
Yeah, it's really hard because you get a mixed grab bag here from CLG and all their performances. I think when you look towards the top side, you are starting to see Darshan put up some better performances as of late. I think he really is kind of turning some things around there. But then you look to the bottom side and that inconsistency that you're getting from the bottom lane, which was the consistent part of you last year. This year, not so much. You are getting these performances from them where they're either getting stomped in lane or coming out of there with no advantage. And so that is somewhat of an issue if you are CLG.
Another big surprise is that Optic, 6 weeks in, are outside of the bottom 4, which, I mean, looking at the preseason, definitely would not have expected that. They got a win against FlyQuest here this week. They only went 1-1, but they did match up against Liquid. So, you know, you're probably not getting one there. But, I mean, Crown and Arrow have actually been very solid the last couple of weeks. Arrow, the first few games that we saw out of him, looked pretty terrible, but lately he has looked a whole lot better, and Crown looks much better than he did at Worlds.
There's been a couple situations with imports in North America where it either works out where, hey, if your imports are not doing their job and not carrying the team for the most part, you're not going to be doing well. Right now, on Optic Gaming, the way it's set up, they need to have their imports be manageable players here that are making impacts positively for them here. And absolutely Crown and Arrow fit that bill, and they are doing great work here this split, and I think it's really been a strong improvement for the Optic Gaming brand.
And it continues to be Meteos getting the majority of the starts in the jungle, and they still look pretty decent with him in there, and Dardoch in the academy. The top 5 for this week, it looks pretty similar to what we saw the last week, and that's because the top 3 are going to be completely untouched for a while. But we do have a little bit of movement because another 0-2 week for FlyQuest has them down 1 spot, and the Guardians, after going 1-1 this week, are up to number 4, and that game against 100 Thieves was just a gimme. They said, you want Baron? Sure. You want Elder? Sure. 3 inhibs? Okay. But after that, we're going to fight. Oh wait, we lost the game. But even before that, they actually looked decent against Cloud9 and put up a decent fight. I think of all these 5 and 7 teams, it's definitely Golden Guardians and FlyQuest that look the best.
And when you do look at that game against Cloud9, you have to think for the Golden Guardians that there is a way that they come away with that one for the victory. And when you talk about how they've been playing all year, yes, the start is not what we wanted to see, but I think when you talk again, we put so much stress about communication, synergy with the squad, and the Golden Guardians are starting to show that on the rip really well lately, and I think that bodes well for them heading towards playoffs, hopefully.
They just look so much better than they did the first couple of weeks. It's a blessing for them that Urgot is out of the meta because Froggen could not play that in the mid lane. I don't think Hanser enjoyed playing that. Hanser, by the way, has looked super solid. His laning numbers are among some of the best of all top laners, and he looks more like 2017 Hanser as opposed to 2018.
That is a huge bonus here for the Golden Guardians because as we talked about with this roster heading into the year is that it had a lot of potential, but no one knew exactly which version of each player that you were going to be getting as far as their performance. Hanser, in the early parts of this split, it wasn't pretty, but now at least from week 2 onwards, we have seen much better performances from him. And again, as you say, reminiscent of his time on TSM where he was extremely successful.
And for FlyQuest, it's been a rough couple of weeks. I still feel like this team is better than the 5 other teams below them in the standings. I'm expecting them to bounce back. They should make playoffs, especially if these other teams continue to play at the level that we've seen from them. And the top 3 are just that, the top 3. There's a huge gap between them. I feel like even if TSM took down Cloud9 in that matchup this weekend, you'd probably still put C9 ahead of them.
For me, at least, you'd have to put C9 still ahead of them in the power rankings at the very least, even if TSM was able to come away with the win. They didn't, but you did see a lot of positives there from Team Solo Mid in how aggressive and successful the early game was for them and their draft against Cloud9 in that unbelievably disgusting poke composition featuring Nico and Zoe that were thrown in there from Team Solo Mid, but you still see some issues translating some of those leads into the mid game and late game closing things out, and that reared its ugly head against Cloud9, and that's why they lost.
There's a lot more positives for TSM than in 2018, a lot more to work with and work off of. So you should be happy if you're a TSM fan that you're not lumped in the middle with all these other teams.
You're out of the clump, it's all good.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that clump because right now, we've talked about it before, there are not 6 playoff caliber teams in North America, which is a very sad reality.
Sad times.
Sad times in North America. But there's still 3 weeks left in the regular season. Maybe some of these squads can bounce back.